Welcome to this review of Grote's Les Paul style guitar. At this end of the market, there are a number of Les Pauls. So you've got to ask yourself, is this one of the best ones? Is this one of the better ones? Should you skip this? And hopefully I'll give you some information to go on. First impressions of the guitar. It has a slimmer neck, which would be in keeping with the 1959 Les Paul that Jimmy Page was sold. It was a 1959 neck, but it was actually thinned. This one is a very interesting beast. I could not resist. Just look at that flame maple top. It is a veneer, but it looks really, really impressive. And obviously it does look very much like the Jimmy Page model, obviously save for the headstock, like the model that Joe Walsh sold to the great man himself back in 1969. So obviously it has that look of a classic looking Les Paul, if that's what you're going for. But a big difference, this thing is incredibly cheap. So they've kept along those kind of lines with this. It has a relatively thin neck. I'm going to go into all of the specs, all of that good stuff later. And I'll do all the measuring so that you know exactly the width and depth and all of those good things. It looks like a much more expensive guitar than it actually is, which is part of the appeal of getting one of these. The hardware itself is pretty standard stuff. Stop tail bridge and tailpiece, dual humbuckers, three-way switch, and the knobs. The pick guard, that comes off if you want it to. It looks brilliant without that. It does have a few secrets, this guitar, which I'm going to get into as we go through the video, which, you know, you might take as negatives. Unfortunately, it does have a few negatives and it does have a few positives. At this price point, it's no surprise really that it's not going to be absolutely perfect, that probably you're going to have to spend a bit of time and work on this to make it how you would want it. But it is a pretty decent foundation. Now, in terms of the actual specs itself, briefly, it's a mahogany body, mahogany neck, which is pretty good. It is made in China. It's single binding, rosewood fingerboard, which is quite nice, and it does have 22 frets, so you can get all the way up there and do all your nice speed riffing if that's what you want to do. The cutaway is pretty much Les Paul style. This has got a slightly sharper edge to it than a conventional Gibson Les Paul or Epiphone, which just helps differentiate it slightly. Otherwise, it's pretty good. The pickups were quite a surprise on this one. When I started playing it, you'll see the sound demo later. These are actually pretty nice, clear pickups. They also do have a fair amount of push to the bottom end without being muddy, which is great. Now, what I do want to show you though, unfortunately, when I took off the back cover, I discovered something a few things which were a bit concerning. First of all, you can say, what are you taking it off? This is the plastic back cover. It had this kind of like sticky tape on the back. It's a kind of like, it's got that kind of squidginess to it, obviously to fit over this. And the CNC machine, by the looks of it, had probably gone a bit deep. So you can see they'd done some rough bits of cut wood just to bulk it up a bit. The other thing was, this isn't cut quite properly. This is actually a bit too big for the gap. When I did remove it, now you can only barely see it there. You can maybe just about see there. A little chip of varnish came off when I took this off, which is a shame to say the least. Obviously, what I'm going to have to do is shave this down. So QC wise, yeah, it's maybe a little bit spotty here and there. You can see inside the cavity there, it is small pots. Not too much of a surprise at this kind of price level, given the cheapness of the guitar, really. The actual finish of itself on the back does look quite nice. It looks like it's two pieces. This is probably a veneer over the top, I would have thought, although let's have a look. You can't really tell. It might be just the two pieces of wood slabbed together, possibly. They are actually very pretty pieces of wood, and this is fairly normal. This kind of look is quite normal on a Gibson anyway, so that's nothing to write home about in terms of being something that's unappealing or a shock. In terms of this one as well, the switch, this looks okay. Nothing to complain about really in terms of wiring. Again, it's got those little bits here where they've put in the wood and these bits of sticky tape just to make it sure that it's flush. Again, I'm going to have to stand around here a bit because this didn't fit particularly well in here either. It's not a deal breaker. Most people, I suppose, if they're just learning, beginners or not somebody who wants to tinker, you're not going to really necessarily go in here anyway. And even if you do, this kind of thing doesn't make a huge difference. I mean, really, it's not the end of the world. You can see the neck join there. It's all actually quite neatly done. The binding itself is actually quite nice. It's not a terrible job. It's not, you know, sort of PRS levels of accuracy, but then again, this is a massively less expensive guitar than your average PRS. So, you know, you can't be too harsh on it. You've got to always bear that in mind, that this is not very expensive and it is actually really pretty nice for what you get. So, the other thing which was of note, now, the fretwork and level frets. Now, question, fret leveling, is it necessary on this guitar? Now, this particular one, actually, I'm able to get a really low action on this and it plays really nicely. You don't have to tinker too much with the, I might give it, you know, a couple of rubs over just to get the frets completely level. But it plays really, really nicely actually. But there is a but. Now you might be able to see the fret ends there, and I'll insert some video as well. Now, when it came to me, these were incredibly sharp. These are probably the sharpest fret ends that I've ever felt on a guitar, which isn't ideal, but it's, you know, it's fixable. It's something which, if you've got a bit of sandpaper, if you've got the tools, if you look up on YouTube, various videos and tutorials, it's not that difficult to sort this out. It's just an indicator that this is a cheaper end guitar where they, you know, it's mass. They have to get them out. They have to try and get them out quickly. So they haven't necessarily got the time to finesse these fret ends. I was actually surprised at just how level the frets are, which meant that you can get the strings, you can get a really low action on this, which is a really good thing. I really do like that. That's actually pretty cool. And obviously the clarity of the humbuckers was just brilliant as well. I came as a surprise. The tuners, unfortunately, yeah, they're okay. As long as you're not doing mega bends, anything above sort of semitone, you know, tone or above, and you're going to start to notice these go out of tune. It will happen during a session. A quick tweak here and there, it's not the end of the world. They're not the most high quality tuners. Having said that, if you're just doing normal sort of legato runs, that kind of thing, they're okay. They do work, they're fine. Actually, on that note as well, you can see the neck join there. So it got a few pieces of wood in the neck. You can see the sides as well. I mean, that they do that on Gibson Les Paul tributes, so that's not really the end of the world. And that, you know, if it's going to snap, it's probably going to snap along there if it is dropped or what have you. But I mean, no, try not to drop it, I suppose. The neck looks pretty nice, to be honest. It looks pretty good. So no, not too many complaints there. Knobs themselves, these have got a very smooth action to them. So again, no problems there. As I say, they are small pots, so that's just something to bear in mind, but it's really not the end of the world. The neck profile, I will go into now and show you the depth and the width. Here's what the neck profile looks like at the 1st fret and at the 12th fret. It's pretty consistent up and down the fretboard. There's not a huge difference. It doesn't really fatten out or thicken, and it feels good. It's a relatively slim-ish C kind of shape, and it's very comfortable. The neck depth at the 1st fret is 22.5 millimeters. The neck depth at the 12th fret is actually 21.9 millimeters. So this is quite an interesting guitar because it actually gets a little bit thinner as it goes up, which is fairly unusual. The guitar weighs just a bit over 3.7 kilograms and 8 pounds and 4 ounces, which is a pretty decent weight. Not too heavy, not too light. A good weight for a Les Paul style guitar, definitely. The resistance of the treble pickup is 9.87k ohms, 9.88, there or thereabouts. Both together, 4.65. And the rhythm pickup is 4.78, 4.79, give or take. So these are not very hot pickups, they're kind of in between. They're actually very clear sounding. And without further ado, I'm going to go lead into a sound demo. I'm going to take you through various tones. And if you like all of this, please do like, comment, and subscribe. Overall, it's a good guitar that's not without issues, and for a beginner it's one that should be on the list, I think, to be considered. But there are a lot of options. There's Harley Benton, there's Artist Guitars, there's Anderton's own one as well, their East Coast brand. There are a lot of Les Paul style guitars now at the cheaper end of the market. Now, what you might want to consider if looks are important to you, see, this is really nice. This Grote Les Paul with this lovely flaming, it does look really, really good. But then some of the other ones look pretty decent as well. So that's just something to bear in mind. It does have some of the cheaper elements that you would expect, but none of those are not fixable. You can, if you wanted to, you could upgrade the pots, you can sort out the frettings, you can change the tuners. The nut itself is okay. It just feels like some sort of synthetic plastic. Again, that's something you could change. It's not the end of the world. The switch works. It's overall, it is a fine guitar. There's obviously elements here which they've spent the time on. They've spent a lot of time on the way it looks. This looks absolutely beautiful. If you're going to be on stage, or if you're going to shoot videos, or whatever you want to do with this, it really looks the business. My plan for this particular one, I'm probably going to do a few upgrades. I might do a video on that as well. I might actually change this into more of a kind of a greeny Les Paul style, but I mean really that involves changing the knobs, maybe a few pickup tweaks here and there, that kind of thing. You could have an absolute monster of a guitar with this. It really is the foundation for something really special. It is. It's got the decent quality feeling wood, and it feels like a real Les Paul, and it looks the business. So positives, negatives. Overall, I think maybe it's worth considering. It should be on the list.